Well, it was. I'm disturbed by news and the way people are told what to do and what to think. Serbia has a very poor reputation in the West, and there's no doubt about it that the Serbians handled the breakup of Yugoslavia in a very in a terrible way that did them no favours. Um, I mean, I actually was in Yugoslavia during the Civil War. I went initially to Slovenia as a tourist to go skiing, and I then hitchhiked through Bosnia, through Croatia, then Bosnia, and ended up in Dubrovnik, where the Serbian artillery was in the hills, and people were washing their dishes in the sea. Um, Quite an interesting experience, to be honest. Obviously, it was a feeling of anarchy. The weird thing was, I still had my ski boots. I was carrying my ski boots, being very heavy. I had them in my backpack, so I felt such a fool carrying ski boots to Dubrovnik. I'm not sure what happened to those boots over the years. Like most of us, I've had a lot of stuff, and I'm not 100% sure where a lot of it's gone. Some of my favourite T-shirts just disappeared. Don't know what happened to them. But of course, if there's something you really don't like, you can be sure you'll keep it forever. Um, but the point I'm making is Ratka, this area, Raska, how do you pronounce it, is on the border with Kosovo, which was created because in that part of ex-Yugoslavia, the majority of the population were Albanians. Now, I don't know how long the Albanians had been there. I mean, obviously there's always been an Albanian population in that area, but the Serbs say that a lot of the Albanians came to Yugoslavia during the Tito years, because Yugoslavia was a lot richer and more free than Albania. So, and because there's an ethnic Albanian community in that region. Now, I'm not a Serbian, and I'm incredibly sad for them and for the Albanians and the Kosovans and all the other people in the region. Yugoslavia was an extremely good country, but unfortunately, when the Soviet Union disappeared, Yugoslavia ceased to have any benefit for either the Soviet Union and Warsaw Pact or NATO. And as a result, NATO was quite happy to see it fall apart. And indeed, NATO encouraged it to fall apart. Encouraged it. And it is kind of weird that now we were told how incredibly important it is for the nation to be sovereign. For example, in the case of Georgia and Azerbaijan, NATO has the position that their national borders have to stay exactly the same as they were in the communist times. But that simply did not apply to Serbia, because Kosovo was an integral part of Serbia, albeit with a large Albanian population. But there was no necessity in their case to have Serbia's borders respected. Now, personally, if I was a Serb, I wouldn't particularly want to live with people who don't like me. Although I haven't got much choice in my personal case. I have a lot of unfashionable opinions which I like to share, and that makes me an unpopular person. We don't live in an era of free speech. Even if you politely discuss issues with people, if your opinions do not correspond with the zeitgeist of the media and the current things that are being promoted, people just can't handle it. It's got to such an extent now. I mean, we can see the direction of society. Freedom of speech. I mean, even the ability to talk to a tiny audience online is going to be ending soon. And I think that's inevitable. And I'm wondering, it doesn't have to be like this, it shouldn't be like this, but the public have been tricked into going along with it, not seeing, first of all, that they're wrong, and it's the people who are just trying to warn you, but even allowing for that fact, even if you believe, let's say you believe that people like me are talking rubbish, I mean, don't you think, as a safety mechanism, we should be allowed to talk rubbish, because just in case at some point people who aren't talking rubbish are also prevented from saying things. You see, it's not just my freedom of speech I'm trying to protect, it's everybody's freedom of speech, including the freedom of people who don't agree with me. You see, the difference between me and them is that I'm not trying to prevent them from having a say, right? And they are trying to prevent me from having a say. And you can't even have an adult debate about issues. People get really, really angry and upset, and they just simply can't imagine, even in their wildest dreams, that they might be wrong. But at the very least, people should be able to have an adult discussion about issues, including a respectful debate with people you don't agree with, just in case maybe they have some information that you don't. But that just doesn't happen, unfortunately. And it probably never has happened, because people are brainwashed from birth into believing things. Of course, our language, the language we speak, the language I'm thinking in, and our likes and dislikes, the food we eat is mostly, the food we like to eat is mostly inherited. If you were born in India, from an early age, you'd be eating different kinds of food, and you would grow up with those tastes. And in the same way, if you grow up in India or China or anywhere else, as you grow up, you will inherit all kinds of, not in addition to language, all kinds of prejudices, all kinds of thought processes, which is going to affect you for your entire life. And for individual people around the world who want to think straight and who want to think for themselves and not allow themselves to be bullied by peer pressure, this is an enormously complicated issue. And also, of course, as I know, especially when you live in what's called a democracy, is that it doesn't matter how much research I do on any given topic, I can still be massively outvoted by total idiots who haven't done any research at all. I mean, this is the problem. I don't own newspapers. I don't have the TV at my disposal. If I had my own, if I could hijack the BBC, and instead of their shit, I could say, listen, you've all been tricked. Listen to what I'm saying. Have a think about it. Instead of sitting there in front of the television watching shit, how about having a think and ask yourself what's really going on in the world? You know, there's a great speech from Network, you see, and with Peter Falk. And the thing is, the trick behind that is they tell us, but they only tell us in the sense it's a movie. They don't tell us, you know, the truth is hidden in movies to make it seem as if that's the fiction and the news is the reality, whereas it's the other way around. You can find the truth in the movies and the reality, the fiction in the news. Like, for example, this tree in Northumberland, Hadrian's Wall, which was cut down, and they said it was a 16-year-old boy, and now they've arrested a 60-year-old. You can be sure this story will have lots of twists and turns. They'll probably arrest the grandmother as well, or maybe ISIS will claim they did it. Some guy on my channel who I mean, I instantly knew, I could see that that was a professional job. That wasn't simply some kid with an Argos chainsaw or whatever, or someone he bought at the, that was a professional job, almost certainly using heavy equipment. So that could not possibly have been a 16-year-old child, in my not so humble opinion. But, where I'm looking for other people who might think the way I do, and I can't find any. If you look online, it's all, oh, what's going on? Why do people behave like this? Oh, that guy should be punished. you should be forced to plant trees, or okay, let's rewild the whole area and so on, to try and make a sentimental angle. But you know, obviously, what people are going to think is, obviously, look what's the state of the world. You know, terrorism, climate change, flu, all that shit, and now beautiful. Even people are going to beauty spots in the middle of the night and destroying beautiful scenery, just for the hell of it. So what they're trying to do is, it's really a form of, was it degradation? It's a form of humiliation. They're trying to humiliate the public, destroy our national heritage, just like that arson on the wonky pub. And I believe that the people who were behind the wonky pub demolition and arson were also behind the destruction of this tree, and they'll be doing more things similar. They've done a lot of these psyops in the past. Grenfell, for example, was an arson. The fire spread in a way that would not be impossible. The official story of an exploding fridge and so on is just a complete and utter nonsense, right? Complete and utter nonsense. It was a sort of symbolic Burning Man type thing. And the thing is that, you know, I mean, it would be nice if people could just at least consider what I'm saying as an option, a possibility, because it is a possibility. I mean, arson is a possibility. It's also a possibility. It is a possibility. It is conceivable, at least conceivable, and in my view, very probable, that this tree, and if you look at the cut, that's a professional job, right? Most chainsaws are designed to take down, most domestic chainsaws are designed to take down very small trees and things like that, or just cut a few things for logs and that. That's a very big tree and would require professional, so there's no way a 16-year-old would have done it in the middle of the night on his own. It's a very, very professional job, and it's a very, very big tree. And yet nobody, especially in the media, of course the media would never say, well, this is a bit odd. I mean, we're told that this tree was taken down, and there's pictures of this tree, and the guys there's people in face masks examining it. Like, you know, I'm surprised they didn't have a big magnifying glass, like a Sherlock Holmes. And of course, even though this place is practically in the middle of nowhere, in order to make it look like a crime scene, they've used a police tape. They always use the police tape. So the photographer can go there and get the money shot. There's the tree, felled tree, and there's the police tape. So basically, it's a crime scene. And, you know, it just would not occur to the average person that the government could do something like that. And I would agree that the psychological reasons for something like that would not be understood by the average person. They would not be able to say, well, why would they do it? You see, that's what they always say. Well, why would they do it? Why would the government do 9/11? Why would the government cut down that tree? Why? But the bottom line is, you know, government do things, and, you know, you could just as easily say, well, why would that kid have cut down the tree? You know? So if you believe that the kid is capable of cutting down the tree, then you have to believe that maybe the government are capable of cutting down the tree. And it's not as if the government don't cut down lots and lots of trees. HS2, how many trees were felled for that? And now they're not even sure they're going to complete it. It was a stupid idea in the first place. People should be, what we need is a regular and cheap public transport to encourage people and make the journey enjoyable, so that people are not in such a massive hurry to reach their destination. You know, I want to take a slow boat, you know, a slow boat, a small slow boat, chugging along on the river so I can look out the window and enjoy the scenery. But now everything's about speed. So let's chop down 1 million trees and spend 150 billion so that we can get to Birmingham in 15 minutes shorter journey. I don't see the point of that. Make the journey enjoyable, make the prices cheaper, make the schedule running on time, and people will use the train even if it does take a little bit longer. So there you are, that's my 15 minutes up. I'm just saying it's so unfair that we refuse to help the Serbs or the Armenians, but we bend over backwards for Ukraine.